When building distributed systems, guarantees around consistency can get difficult as we cross system boundaries. Remember, microservices don't share a database. Although CockroachDB might provide us with strong guarantees inside the database, those no longer apply once we leave that walled garden. It is important for us to understand what guarantees are provided inside the database and how they change when we start moving data between microservices. As a microservice developer, we need to understand the limitations and learn to work within them. When we publish events to our queue, we need to ensure that they get there. If for some reason they fail, then we would lose data downstream. Therefore, if a message fails to publish, it must be retried. This is known as an at least once delivery guarantee, and it's provided by enterprise change feeds in CockroachDB. In normal circumstances, this means that every message is delivered only once. However, in some cases, such as during a communication failure, a message may get delivered multiple times. It is important to design your system with potential duplicates in mind. The ordering guarantees for a change feed are a little more complicated. In general, change feeds are guaranteed to provide in-order delivery of messages for any individual row. You will never see a new change for a row with an earlier timestamp than a previous one. However, sometimes due to failures or other conditions, the database may temporarily lose track of whether a recent change was delivered. In this case, it will redeliver that change in order to guarantee that nothing is missed. This means that you may see a duplicate of a change that you have seen previously. This duplicate may show out of order, but it can be ignored. It's also important to recognize that the ordering guarantees only apply to individual rows. There's no guarantee of order across multiple rows. To guarantee ordering across rows, we'd have to avoid concurrency. Otherwise, there's no guarantee which change gets published first. If we want strict ordering, our operations must happen in a single-threaded fashion or employ locking mechanisms to prevent concurrency. In CockroachDB, we want to ensure that our system can scale, and a single-threaded process eliminates that capability. You can't scale or distribute a non-concurrent operation. With Cockroach CDC, the decision was made to favor scalability at the cost of some ordering guarantees. Because our outbox table is append-only, we will never have more than a single change recorded for an individual row. This means that when using a change feed for our outbox table, there is no ordering guarantee. It is very possible to see events in our change feed come out of order. This makes it critical to have systems in place downstream to deal with those out-of-order events. Cockroach does provide an optional resolved timestamp. When enabled, these timestamps are emitted when the change feed determines there is no unresolved records. However, you can also set a minimum threshold to avoid receiving them too often. When you see a resolved timestamp, you can guarantee that no other changes for any rows will be emitted with a lower timestamp. The exception is any changes that you may have already seen, and as before, those are duplicates and can be ignored. You can use the resolved timestamps to buffer messages and reorder them downstream if required. Once you receive a resolved timestamp, you know it is safe to sort and drain your buffer. It is important to remember that these looser restrictions on ordering only apply to Cockroach CDC. In CockroachDB, you still have the benefits of serializable isolation on every transaction. It is only when you leave the safety of the database that the ordering gets a little fuzzy. Just remember that when you build an event-driven system, you're going to have to think a little more carefully about event ordering and duplication.